Hey folks, it's your girl Lexi Mahari, and I am back with another episode of Buzzworthy Chit Chat, where I like to share my opinion on the latest pop culture news, current events, reality and scripted television reviews, and so much more. But before we dive in, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a brand new video. In this episode, we're reviewing The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 15, Not Michelle Obama. If you are new to the channel, here's what you need to know. While I am not going to recap the entire episode frame by frame, I am going to share my top 3 moments of this week's episode. If you watched the episode, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you agree with my picks, or do you have others that stood out to you? While you ponder that question, let's get into it. So this week's episode picks back up with a few thoughts from Kenya about Aaron standing up to defend his wife, Sonia. And, I will say this. In last week's review of The Housewives of Atlanta, I talked a little bit about my concerns in Aaron standing up to defend his wife against a woman who was unaccompanied by a male. Now, I want to clarify that I don't want to say that I necessarily saw it as being an aggressive move on his part. Again, I just struggled with whether or not he would have done that if she had been accompanied by a male, or if he would have been able to put it into perspective that this was truly a female issue. Now, whether Kenya was wrong or right, she and Sheree in their charge against Sanya and feeling as though perhaps they had been disinvited from the excursion, so to speak, of watching her film for Fitbit, that in and of itself, I didn't necessarily agree with everything they had to say in the situation, but I did have an issue with Aaron standing up. I don't feel that he was aggressive in the way that Kenya was portraying him. I did not really appreciate the narrative that it was painting necessarily, because he was not he didn't raise his voice or anything like that. I don't want to even say that he was threatening, but what I think was concerning was just that you had this person defending his wife to a woman who was unaccompanied by another male. And again, I question if he would have done that with one of the other ladies who were accompanied by their husband. So my number 3 pick moment of the night is not really so much as a moment of, ooh, aha, this was great, just more of a conversational piece as it related to Aaron's defense of his wife. I felt like Sanya probably could have defended herself just fine in that moment. Even though she was struggling a little bit, she still could have defended herself. But, I just didn't think he needed to intervene again, because it was going to paint that optic. And it did. Kenya called it out for what it was, and to some extent even made it maybe come across as worse than it was. So my number 2 moment of the episode definitely has a lot to do with Marlo. So, this episode kind of left Marlo to act as the backup host, because Sanya, her husband, they're both busy filming for, their Fitbit thing that they were there for. It was a business trip at the end of the day. So they're off busy, and after the whole to-do and blow up about being quote unquote disinvited, Sanya makes the smart decision to leave someone else in charge in her absence. And so she elects Marlo to be that backup. Now, I don't know that was the smartest decision to do, given that you have half of those who are left behind angry with Marlo, or not really that interested in anything Marlo has to say or do at the time. But she is the person who is left in charge of this trip. And so we see all of the crazy moves by others who are trying to avoid interacting with her, them ignoring her, them being Candy and Kenya. Candy is still steaming about the interaction between her and Marlo about her husband. Kenya, she don't really care for Marlo, so there's nothing going on there. But then, we see Candy is so upset with Marlo, she's willing to stay under the canopy of poop and eat her food rather than go out by the poolside initially to sit with Marlo. Marlo seems to somehow be confused about why people are frustrated with her, as if she had the right to say the things she said. She has no understanding for why Candy called her out on her hypocrisy, and she feels that she was justified in saying what she said because she felt that Candy was coming for her nephews. Now listen, I think it's a reach to say that Candy was, quote, coming for her nephews. I think Candy called Marlo on her stuff. It was a bit of hypocrisy, whether she meant well or not, about Ralph's decision to not adopt JoJo. And, at the end of the day, it would have been great if Marlo could have acknowledged certain things, right? Now, Marlo's beef is that she felt Candy is calling her out on some things publicly, or that she shared her business with people who may not have known. But I'm confused about who was there other than the men who didn't know what was going on with her and her nephews, and why she would think they wouldn't know because their wives likely would have told them what was going on, right? With the exception of Kenya's faux boyfriend in that moment at the first dinner, everyone else was on the trip, as I recall. So, maybe with the exception of Sheree's friend, I guess that's the other person, but everybody else was there. Monietta was there on the trip, remember? Sheree was there, Kenya was there, Drew was there. Everybody was at this trip that they took up to Blue Ridge. So I was honestly confused about what she's talking about when she says she felt that Candy had put her business out there in front of strangers when everybody that was there was at the dinner. So, again, Marlo was confused as to why Candy, did this to her, or why she's upset that, she said what she said about Todd. And, the two ladies have to work it out. Now we fast forward to the dinner, in which, people are, I guess, kind of going around and having their say so as it relates to how they felt about things. And of course, Candy and Marlo are kind of put in the spotlight to resolve their differences. Marlo still tries to hold Candy accountable for what she said or how she said it, and feeling justified in saying what she had to say. And, Candy pushes back and I think she somewhat apologized actually. She said that she, if with Marlo feeling that she had shared something that she shouldn't have with the greater public, she apologized for that. And I thought that was a fair apology because at the end of the day, I don't think Candy really, again, said anything to Marlo that wasn't true as related to her situation. Now, Marlo then, of course, gets upset because Todd says, "Can you please keep my name out of your mouth?" Now, he said it in a whole other way, but she's like, "Why are you cursing at me?" Which was crazy because, listen, he wasn't cursing at you. He was just saying keep him out of the argument. And I agree. Like, if you're coming for Candy, come for Candy. Don't come for Candy about her marriage or about stuff from yesteryear. You come for Candy about some real stuff. So, yeah, that was my number two moment of the night. Candy and Marlo working it out and kind of coming to somewhat of a truce in that moment. Of course, Candy had no idea at that time all the stuff that Marlo and Sheree had been saying about her behind her back, but they had kind of come to a semi truce of sorts by the end of that vacation. So my top moment of this week's episode is going to go to Sanya and Kenya and their articulate exchange. I actually felt bad for Sanya in this moment, as she was clearly coming in there ready for Kenya. She was ready to hold Kenya accountable for some things because Kenya, of course, was still claiming to be upset about being, quote, disinvited to the filming event, which we know wasn't true. And so, Sanya, I think, was still fuming over that she had made such a big to-do to the point that her husband, Aaron, felt the need to intervene. And so when she and Kenya began to exchange words about, why each one is feeling the way they are, she honestly could not really articulate why she was angry with Kenya, because as Kenya said, she had pretty much apologized for everything she had done previously, such as being 2 hours late to the something that Sanya had going on previously, and they had kind of made up past that. Now, Sanya in some of the side clips had made comments about Kenya, constantly talking about her divorce and about her daughter, which, side note, is interesting, right? Because, I kind of hate that people are foo-fooing whatever emotion Kenya has going on. Now, listen, Kenya, I will say, can be shady as the next person. She may even be acting, but if she's not acting, and these are truly issues for her, it's kind of one of those how dare you minimize whatever it is that's going on in Kenya's life with that divorce and her daughter. Those are things that are important to her. So you can't minimize what's important to somebody else. But that's a whole other story. Let's get back to the top moment. So we have Kenya and Sanya, like I said, going back and forth. And, Sanya is not able to articulate why she's angry with Kenya. And so Kenya, being the shark that she is, basically starts to circle the waters and holds Sanya accountable for not really having a real issue with her. And it was kind of telling for Sanya, unfortunately, that she is getting caught up in some of the stuff that's going on. And, hopefully these two ladies maybe worked out whatever the issue was based on the exchange. I felt like Kenya tried to give a friendly resolution to say, listen, I have no issues with you. Whatever your issues are with me, I think we've worked them out. Let's just push forward and keep it moving. And so, it'll be interesting to see what's coming up. I am actually really interested to see what's going to go down at the upcoming reunion with Sanya and the ladies, because she's just kind of been, I would say, back and forth since the beginning of the season. I felt like she was going to come for Kenya in the way that she did Drew, but Kenya is not Drew. She's kind of like the senior of the, in high school. She knows more than the freshman, and Sanya right now is a freshman on the show. She can't keep up with Kenya. So I'm real curious to see how this reunion is going to unfold. And the other thing I'll add is, there's a lot of traffic right now about whether or not Marlo should be allowed to return to the show, and I think she should be allowed to return to the show. Marlo is a lot of drama. She comes with a lot of baggage, but she has been that way since entering the show as a friend of the show. She used to go for Sheree. She would go below the belt on Sheree, right? She went below the belt obviously multiple times with Kenya. And so what we are seeing now is really no different than what we've always seen from Marlo. But I would like for her to have another season to redeem herself. I don't necessarily agree with 80% of the stuff that she's done on the show. But for Marlo's drama, though, this might have been a boring season. So I am actually hoping they're not going to kick her off and that they will bring her back as a full-time Peach next season. All right, folks, that's my review. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.